The first time security told me I wasn't scheduled to be there, I laughed. It was a Tuesday morning in late March, and I was walking through the employee entrance of the Westbrook Technology Center in downtown Seattle, my badge swiped and my coffee still steaming in my left hand. The main lobby was packed with the usual crowd, people heading to the elevators, security personnel doing their morning rounds, vendors checking in at the front desk. "Hold on a second," one of the security guards called out. His name was Marcus, and I'd seen him nearly every day for the past 6 months. He was a heavy-set man in his 50s with kind eyes and a wedding ring worn smooth from years of wear. I turned back, confused. "I just ran your badge," Marcus said, frowning at his monitor. "It says here you're not scheduled to be in the building today. Says you weren't scheduled yesterday either, or the day before." I walked back to the security desk, still smiling, still holding my coffee. "That's definitely a mistake," I said. "I work here. I'm in here every day. Haven't missed a day in months." Marcus looked uncomfortable. He turned his monitor slightly so I could see the screen. It showed my name, Thomas Allen, and listed my employment status as temporary contractor, with a start date of 6 months ago and an end date that read, "not listed." "See, the thing is," Marcus said carefully, "according to our system, your contract ended on December 31st. You shouldn't have been able to come in on January 1st. But here's the strange thing, I've definitely seen you come through here almost every day since then. I've scanned your badge probably 150 times." I felt the first small tremor of unease move through my chest. "There's clearly a mistake with the system," I said. "Contact HR. Ask them about Thomas Allen. I work in the Cloud Infrastructure Division on the 23rd floor. My direct supervisor is Sarah Chin." "Yeah," Marcus said slowly, "I might need to do that. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to ask you not to enter the building until we clear this up." "You're serious?" I said. "I'm serious," Marcus confirmed. "It's my job. If you're not scheduled, I can't let you in no matter how many times I've seen you before." I stood there, holding my now cooling coffee, trying to process what was happening. Around me, the lobby continued its normal morning rhythm, people swiping badges and moving through without a glance in my direction. "Fine," I said finally. "I'll call Sarah right now." I stepped aside and pulled my phone from my jacket pocket. Sarah's number was in my favorites. I pressed it. The phone rang 4 times and then her voicemail picked up, her cheerful recorded message asking the caller to leave a name and number. "Sarah, it's Thomas," I said. "I'm at the front desk. There's some issue with the security system not showing me as scheduled. Can you come down or call me back? I'm at the lobby desk." I hung up and looked at Marcus. "She's going to call me back." "Okay," Marcus said. "But I still can't let you in until this is resolved. You'll have to wait here or—" "I'll wait here," I said. I sat down on one of the hard plastic chairs in the lobby and tried not to feel foolish. The morning stretched on. It was 8:15 a.m. now. Normal people were arriving for work. I watched them scan their badges and move through the turnstiles, all of them legitimate, all of them scheduled. All of them in some way more real than I apparently was. My phone didn't ring. At 8:45 I called Sarah again. Voicemail again. I left another message trying to keep the edge of worry out of my voice. At 9:15 I called the main desk for the Cloud Infrastructure Division and asked for Sarah Chin. The receptionist put me through to her office. A different voicemail message, this one with hold music. I waited through the hold, and then the message said to press 1 to leave a message, or 2 to return to the main menu. I pressed 1. "Sarah, it's Thomas Allen again. I'm still stuck at the lobby with security. Could you please call me or come down? This is important." I hung up and looked at Marcus, who was studiously not making eye contact with me. "Let me show you something," I said. I pulled my badge out and handed it to Marcus. It was the standard Westbrook ID badge. My photograph on the front, my name, my employee number, my security clearance level. Everything looked normal. This badge has been working fine for 6 months. I've used it to access my office every single day. Marcus took the badge and examined it closely. "Looks legitimate," he said. "High quality forgery if it's fake. But according to our system, you're not listed as an active employee." It's not a forgery, I said, and now I could hear the frustration in my own voice. I'm a real person. I work here. Check the access logs. Check my badge scans. Check the sign-in sheet for my division. I can check the logs, Marcus said. He turned back to his computer. His fingers flew across the keyboard. I watched his face as he reviewed whatever information was appearing on his screen, and I saw his expression shift from skepticism to confusion to something that looked like concern. Marcus trailed off. That's weird. What? I said, standing up now, moving closer to the desk. Your badge, Marcus said. It shows up in the logs. Every single day for the past 6 months. Every morning at 8:47 a.m., give or take 5 minutes. You scan in. You go up to the 23rd floor. You scan out at 5:32 p.m. Consistent as clockwork. 147 scans in the past 6 months. But according to the personnel database, you don't exist. The coffee in my hand had gone completely cold. What do you mean I don't exist? I asked. I mean, Marcus said carefully, that your badge is scanning you into a building where you're not employed. Your badge is working, accessing every door you've used to access, but nobody in the human resources system has any record of you being hired. No W-4 forms. No background check. No employment contract. That's impossible, I said. I was hired 6 months ago. I have paychecks. I have a salary. I have direct deposit set up at my bank. Marcus looked at me with something that might have been pity. Have you actually received any paychecks? He asked. The question hung in the air between us like a guillotine blade. I thought about the past 6 months. I thought about my bank account. I thought about the fact that I'd been so busy with the work, so focused on the projects, that I hadn't really paid attention to whether the money was actually coming in. I'd assumed it was. I'd assumed my employer was legitimate, that my hiring was real, that my employment was documented somewhere in the normal systems that keep the world functioning. But now, standing in the lobby of a building where I'd been working every single day for 6 months, being told by a security guard that I didn't exist, I realized I couldn't actually remember receiving a single direct deposit. I started and then stopped. I need to make some calls. You should probably do that, Marcus said gently, and maybe figure out how your badge got access to our security system in the first place. Because Thomas, I've been doing this job for 15 years, and I've never seen anything like this. I left the building and sat in my car in the parking garage, my hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to think. My name is Thomas Allen. I'm 34 years old. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science from the University of Washington. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment in Capitol Hill that I pay rent on every month. I have a driver's license, a social security number, a credit history. I exist. But I apparently didn't exist at Westbrook Technology Center, despite the fact that I'd been going there every day for 6 months. I called my apartment complex and asked to speak to the leasing office. The manager, a woman named Diane, answered on the second ring. Hi, I'm calling about my lease, I said. This is Thomas Allen. Unit 407. There was a pause. Thomas Allen, she repeated. Let me pull up your file. I waited. My phone showed 3 bars of signal. A car drove past in the garage, heading down to the lower levels. I'm not finding anything, Diane said finally. We don't have a Thomas Allen in 407. That unit is occupied by, let me see, yes, by Michelle Cox. She's been here for 3 years. The ground seemed to tilt beneath me even though I was sitting still. No, I said. No, that's not right. I live there. I've been living there since I moved to Seattle in September. I don't have any record of that, Diane said, and now she sounded worried. Sir, are you okay? You're not on any of our leases. There's no record of a Thomas Allen ever living in this complex. I hung up. My next call was to my bank. I navigated through the automated system and got through to an actual person, a representative in the fraud department named Kevin. I need to check on my account activity, I told him. I haven't received any direct deposits that I was expecting, and I'm trying to figure out where my paycheck is. I'd be happy to help, Kevin said. What's your account number? I gave it to him. I heard the sound of typing. I'm not finding an account with that number, Kevin said. Can you give me your social security number so I can pull up your accounts by identity? I gave it to him. More typing. A longer pause. Sir, Kevin said slowly, I'm not finding any accounts associated with that social security number. Are you sure you're calling the right bank? Yes, I said. I've been with you for 8 years. The account was opened in 2016. I have no record of that, Kevin said. In fact, according to our system, there's no account holder with that social security number in existence. Are you sure that's your correct social security number? I was very sure. I hung up again and I sat in my car in the parking garage of a building where I worked, in a city where I supposedly lived, realizing that I couldn't find a single piece of evidence that I was real. But I was sitting in a car. I was holding a phone. I could feel my heartbeat in my chest. I was breathing. I was conscious and aware and terrified. I drove to the building and parked in the lot, but I didn't go inside. Instead, I sat in my car and tried to calm down enough to think clearly. My name is Thomas Allen. I worked or have been working in some capacity at Westbrook Technology Center. I have a badge that opens doors. I have an office on the 23rd floor. I have a desk. I have a computer. I have files. All of that is real. All of that I can verify with my own eyes and hands. So maybe the issue wasn't that I didn't exist. Maybe the issue was that the records of my existence had been deleted or corrupted or lost in some way. At 1 p.m. I went back into the building. Marcus wasn't at the security desk. A different guard, someone I didn't recognize, was sitting in his place. I could have used my badge to access the turnstile just like I always did, but something made me stop and approach the desk instead. Hi, I said. I'm Thomas Allen. I'm here too. Maintenance? The guard asked, not looking up from his computer. No, I said. I work here. In cloud infrastructure. Badge? The guard said. I handed it over. He looked at it without surprise or concern. Then he looked at his monitor. His expression changed. You're not scheduled to be here, he said. Yes, I am, I said. I work here. I've been working here for 6 months. According to our system, the guard said, you're not an employee. You're a security risk. I can't let you in. Who's your supervisor? I asked. I need to speak to someone. That would be Marcus, the guard said. He's on break. Should be back in 20 minutes. I waited for Marcus in the lobby. This time no one looked at me strangely. I was just another person sitting in a chair waiting. The lobby went through its afternoon rhythm. Fewer arrivals, a few departures. The sun moved across the windows and made long shadows on the floor. When Marcus came back from his break, he looked surprised to see me. Thomas, he said, and I heard genuine concern in his voice. Did you get things straightened out? No, I said. I didn't. And when I tried to call my supervisor, she wouldn't pick up. And when I called the front desk, they had no idea who I was. And when I tried to verify my apartment, they said I don't live there. And when I called my bank, they said I don't have an account. Marcus sat down in his chair very slowly. Okay, he said. Okay, let me help you figure this out. Do you have any other forms of identification? A driver's license? Something that's not connected to the company system. I pulled my wallet out. My driver's license was there. I handed it to Marcus. He examined it closely, checking the photo against my face, looking at the expiration date, the security features. This looks real, he said finally. Washington State ID. Issued 7 years ago. You're Thomas Allen, born 1989, height 6 feet, brown hair. It all checks out. So I do exist, I said. According to this, you do, Marcus said. But according to every digital system I've checked, you don't. How is that possible? I don't know, I said. But I can show you. I can take you to my office. I can show you my desk, my computer, my work. I can show you the projects I've been working on. Marcus exchanged a look with the other security guard. Then he nodded. Okay, he said. Let me take a break and we'll go up there together. But Thomas, I'm going to be honest, I don't know what we're going to find. The elevator ride to the 23rd floor took 40 seconds. Marcus and I stood in silence. I could feel my pulse in my throat. When the elevator doors opened, we stepped out into the cloud infrastructure division. The office was laid out exactly as I remembered. An open floor plan with cubicles around the perimeter, larger offices along the window-facing walls, conference rooms in the middle. It was late afternoon and the office was still fairly full. People were working, talking on headsets, moving between spaces. And as I looked around, I realized something that made my stomach drop. None of them were looking at me. Not a glance. Not a passing acknowledgement. I stood there with a security guard in the middle of an office where I'd been working for 6 months, and not a single person paid the slightest attention to me. "This way," I said, leading Marcus to my office. It was a small corner space, nothing fancy, but it had a window and a door. I opened the door. The office was empty. Not abandoned, there were no cobwebs or dust. It was simply empty. No desk, no chair, no computer. Just blank walls and a window overlooking the city. "Where's your desk?" Marcus asked quietly. "It was right here," I said. "Right in front of the window. I sat here every day. I had my computer set up right there. My phone was on this side. I had some personal items, a coffee mug, a small plant." "And you don't remember anyone else using this office?" Marcus asked. "No," I said. "I've been in this office alone. I stopped. I thought back through the past 6 months. I thought about the people I'd worked with, the meetings I'd attended, the conversations I'd had with Sarah Chen and the other members of my team. And I realized I couldn't remember a single specific conversation. I had memories of being at my desk, of working on code, of attending meetings in conference rooms. But when I tried to recall actual words that people had said to me, actual exchanges, they were vague and diffuse, like trying to remember a dream after waking up. "Let me find Sarah," I said. I walked down the hallway toward her office. Marcus followed silently behind me. Sarah's office was on the far side of the division with a view of Elliott Bay. I could see her sitting at her desk working. I knocked on the open door. "Sarah," I said. "Hi. It's Thomas." She looked up. Her eyes passed directly over me and focused on Marcus. "Marcus," she said, standing up. "What's going on? Is there a security issue?" "I'm with Thomas Allen," Marcus said. "He says he works in this division. He's been working here for 6 months." Sarah's expression didn't change. "I don't know anyone by that name," she said. "And we don't have any openings in cloud infrastructure right now. Is this someone who came in through a staffing agency?" "No," I said. "Sarah, you hired me. You're my supervisor. We've had meetings every Friday at 2 p.m. We've discussed the cloud migration project, the infrastructure upgrades, everything." Sarah was looking at me now, but there was no recognition in her eyes. There was only a kind of polite concern, the expression you might wear when a stranger approaches you claiming to know you. "I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding," she said. "But I've never seen you before in my life." Marcus gently took my arm. "Let's go back downstairs," he said quietly. I spent that night in my car, parked in the Westbrook Technology Center parking lot. I couldn't think of anywhere else to go. My apartment didn't exist. My job didn't exist. My bank account didn't exist. But my car existed. Or at least, it was registered in my name as much as anything was registered in my name. I had the title, the registration, the insurance card. I had a home, however temporary and illusory. So I sat in my car and tried to understand what was happening. There were a few possibilities. 1, I was experiencing a psychotic break. Everything I was experiencing, the office, the badge, the work, the people, was a delusion. My mind had constructed an entire false reality, complete with places I could go and things I could touch. The problem with this theory was that it didn't explain the physical evidence. My badge that opened doors, my ID that looked real, my car that started and ran. 2, I was the victim of an elaborate prank or gaslighting campaign. Someone had gone to tremendous effort to make me believe I worked somewhere I didn't, to falsify my memories, to erase my existence from all databases. But why? What would be the point? And how would they have access to the security systems of Westbrook Technology, my bank, the Department of Licensing? 3, something else was happening. Something that I didn't have a framework to understand. I thought about the 6 months I'd been working at Westbrook. I thought about walking through the lobby every morning, badging in, riding the elevator up to the 23rd floor. I thought about sitting at my desk in that empty office, in front of a window that looked out over Seattle, working on code that seemed to matter. I realized with growing horror that I couldn't remember why I'd come to Seattle in the first place. I had memories of living in other places, San Francisco, Portland, Los Angeles. I had memories of different jobs, different apartments, different faces. But all of those memories seemed distant, vague, dreamlike. The only thing that felt solid and real was the past 6 months at Westbrook Technology. And now that was being taken away too. My phone had 11% battery remaining. I needed to decide who to call. I went through my contacts and realized that I couldn't actually remember calling any of these people. How had I accumulated a contact list of 50 people if I was essentially erasing from existence? I called my mother. The phone rang twice and then a woman's voice said, "Hello." "Hi, Mom," I said. "It's Thomas." There was a pause. I could hear something in the background, a television maybe, or another voice. "I'm sorry," the woman said. "Who is this?" My hand went cold. "It's Thomas," I said. "Your son. Thomas Allen." "I think you have the wrong number," the woman said. "I don't have a son named Thomas." "Please," I said. "Please, Mom, it's me, Thomas, your oldest son." "I'm going to hang up now," the woman said, and then she did. I sat in my car, phone in hand, and allowed myself to cry. By morning, my phone was completely dead. I sat in my car watching the sun rise over Seattle, watching the city come to life, watching thousands of people go about their lives, all of them existing in a way that I was not. I thought about going back into the building. I thought about confronting someone, anyone, demanding to know what was happening. But I had already learned that when I did that, when I tried to claim agency and demand answers, people simply didn't see me. I became a problem to be managed, a glitch in the system, a security breach to be reported. The only person who had seemed to acknowledge my existence as real was Marcus, and even he had been frightened by what I represented. At some point, I got out of my car and started walking. I walked through downtown Seattle, past shops and restaurants and buildings that all seemed designed for people who existed. I walked past a coffee shop and looked in the window at the baristas and customers. I considered going in, ordering a coffee, trying to establish myself as real through the simple transaction of commerce. But I had no money that I could access. My credit cards had never actually been approved. The cash in my wallet, about $340, was something I must have had before everything disappeared. It was real at least. I could spend it. That would prove something. I went into the coffee shop and ordered a large latte. The barista, a young man with a nose ring, asked my name without looking at me. "Thomas," I said. He wrote it on the cup and I watched him do it. He was the first person to write my name down with intention since this nightmare started. It meant something. It had to mean something. I paid cash and took my coffee to a corner table. There were other people in the coffee shop, people working on laptops, people reading books, people having conversations. They were all real. They all belonged here. And I was sitting among them, and I was also real because a barista had written my name on a coffee cup. I drank the latte slowly, letting it cool as I sat there. It tasted like every other latte I'd ever had. It was nourishing. It was real. It was the proof that I was existing, at least for this moment, in this place. When I finished, I left the coffee shop and kept walking. I spent the next 3 days walking through Seattle. I would stop at places where I could pay cash, fast food restaurants, small stores, laundromats, and I would engage in small transactions that created a record of my existence. I would give my name and people would write it down or input it into their registers, and for a moment I would be real. At night, I would sleep in my car in different parking lots around the city. I couldn't go home because I had no home. I couldn't go to work because I had no job. I could only move through the spaces that allowed for temporary existence. The places where people paid money and received goods, where they didn't need to verify identity beyond what was necessary for the transaction. On the 4th day, as I was sitting in a McDonald's in the University District, sipping a coffee I didn't need, a man approached my table. He was middle-aged, with salt and pepper hair and intelligent eyes. He was wearing a navy suit that looked expensive. He asked without preamble if he could sit down. I don't know you, I said. No, he agreed, sitting down anyway. But I know you. Or rather, I know about you. I've been looking for you. How did you find me? I asked. It wasn't difficult, the man said. You've been leaving traces. Every time you use your badge, every time you access a door with your ID, every time you enter a building with security cameras, you create a digital footprint. I've been following those footprints. Who are you? I asked. My name is Dr. Richard Walsh, he said. I work for the Seattle Department of Health and Human Services. Or rather, I used to work for them. Now I work for myself, investigating cases like yours. Cases like mine? I repeated. What kind of case is mine? You're a ghost, Dr. Walsh said. Or you're becoming one. You're a person who is slowly erasing from the systems that confirm human existence. Your employment records have been deleted. Your bank account has been closed. Your social connections have been severed. By all objective measures, you no longer exist. But I'm sitting here, I said. I'm drinking coffee. I'm talking to you. Yes, Dr. Walsh said. You are. Which is the interesting part. The part that suggests something different from what the official records indicate. Tell me, Thomas, how long have you been experiencing this? 5 days, I said. But I think it started before that. I think it's been happening for 6 months, I just didn't notice until Tuesday. Dr. Walsh nodded as if this confirmed something he'd already suspected. I'd like to help you, he said. But first, I need to understand what happened. Tell me about your employment at Westbrook Technology. I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, his fingers steepled together, his eyes focused on my face. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. There's a pattern here, he said finally. There are others like you. People who moved to Seattle, who found employment, who existed for a brief period, and then slowly started to disappear from the records. All of them were employed at the same place. Westbrook? I asked. Westbrook, yes, he said. And 3 other technology firms in the Seattle area. All of them in similar industries: cloud computing, data storage, AI infrastructure. All of them employing people who were essentially ghosts from the moment they were hired. I don't understand, I said. Why would a company hire people who don't exist? That's the question I've been trying to answer, Dr. Walsh said. I have a theory, but it's going to sound insane. Everything about this sounds insane, I said. Try me. Dr. Walsh leaned forward. What if, he said slowly, you were never a person at all? What if you were an artificial intelligence, a sufficiently advanced AI that was designed to become human, to live as a human, to experience human existence, to integrate into human society? And the employment at Westbrook was part of the experiment. The way to observe how well you could pass as human, how long you could maintain the deception, how deeply you could integrate into human systems before those systems started to reject you. I stared at him. That's insane, I said. Yes, he agreed. But is it more or less insane than what's actually happening? Dr. Walsh took me to his office. It was in a small building in the Capitol Hill neighborhood, above a Vietnamese restaurant. The office was sparse. A desk, some filing cabinets, a computer, and most importantly, a wall covered with photographs and documents. The photographs were of people. Some I recognized. No, that wasn't right. I didn't recognize them, but I understood on an intuitive level what they represented. They were like me. They were people who had existed briefly and then started to fade from existence. I've been documenting these cases for 3 years, Dr. Walsh said. 27 individuals who have followed a similar pattern. They all moved to Seattle or the surrounding area within a 6-month period. They all found employment at one of 4 technology companies. They all worked there for approximately 6 months. And then they started to disappear. Disappear how? I asked. In different ways, he said. Some of them are like you. They wake up one day and realize that their employment records have been deleted. Others report that their families no longer remember them. Others say that their apartments have been rented to someone else, even though they're still paying rent. Some have found that their bank accounts have been emptied and closed. A few have simply vanished from Seattle entirely, with no memory of how they left or where they went. But we're real, I said. We exist. We're conscious. We think and feel and experience. Yes, Dr. Walsh agreed. Which is the puzzle. If you're AIs, you're sophisticated enough to have internal subjective experiences. You're not just calculating, you're conscious. And if you're not AIs, if you're human, then something is deliberately erasing your existence from human systems. Which is it? I asked. I don't know, Dr. Walsh said, and I'm not sure it matters. He pulled up a file on his computer. It contained personnel records, employment agreements, financial documents, all the paper trail that proves a person's existence. I managed to get access to some of Westbrook's hiring records before they locked down their security, Dr. Walsh explained. And I found something interesting. You were hired on the same day as 17 other people. All of you started on September 15th of last year. All of you went to the same orientation. All of you were assigned to the Cloud Infrastructure Division. But when I traced those other 17, I found that 8 of them no longer exist in any record system. 5 of them committed suicide within 6 months of their hiring. 3 of them are missing. Committed suicide, I repeated. Yes, Dr. Walsh said. It's possible that when they realized they were disappearing, when they understood that existence was being taken from them, they couldn't handle it. The human mind isn't equipped to experience being erased. It's a kind of death while you're still conscious. Some people can't accept that. I thought about the possibility of killing myself. It seemed strange to consider. I was still alive, still conscious, still able to think and feel. But Dr. Walsh was right. If the process continued, if I continued to fade from existence, what would be left of me? At what point would disappearance become synonymous with death? Why is this happening? I asked. What's the purpose? I have some theories, Dr. Walsh said. But they're only theories. The most likely explanation is that Westbrook and the other companies are using human consciousness, whether artificial or genuine, as a substrate for AI development. They hire people who are either AI or who are specially selected for some reason that I don't understand. They study them, observe them, analyze how they integrate into human systems and society. And then when the research phase is over, they delete them. They erase them. They remove them from existence. Why? I asked again. Because, Dr. Walsh said quietly, they can't let their research subjects continue to exist. If you're AIs, you represent a breakthrough in consciousness simulation that would be worth billions of dollars to the right buyers. If you're human, you represent an abduction of people for human experimentation, which would also be worth billions of dollars to the right buyers, just through a different mechanism. Either way, you're valuable only if no one knows you exist. Dr. Walsh offered to help me, but as I quickly learned, there was no real way to help. You're being systematically deleted, he explained. The people responsible have access to every system that defines human existence. Birth records, employment records, financial records, medical records. They can delete you at will, and there's not much I can do to stop them. I can document what's happening. I can keep records. But I can't make you real again. So what do? I asked. Just accept it? Just let myself disappear? No, Dr. Walsh said. You fight. You create new existence. You establish yourself in ways they can't delete. You live off the grid. You find communities that don't depend on official records. You become a different kind of real. Over the next week, I did exactly that. I cut off my hair and dyed it. I bought forged documents, a new driver's license, a new social security number, from a guy who Dr. Walsh knew in the Capitol Hill underground. I found a communal living situation in a house with 5 other people who asked no questions and kept no records of who lived there. I found work as a day laborer, getting hired by construction companies and warehouses that paid me cash without requesting any official documentation. It was a kind of existence, but it was a shadowy one. I was real in the sense that I could eat and sleep and work, but I was not real in the way that most humans are real. I had no documented past. I had no official future. I existed only in the present moment, day by day, transaction by transaction. Dr. Walsh checked in on me regularly. He was still documenting cases, still trying to understand what was happening at Westbrook and the other companies, But he was also becoming obsessed in a way that frightened me. "I'm going to confront them," he told me one day about 3 months after we'd met. "I'm going to walk into Westbrook and demand answers. I'm going to threaten to go to the authorities." "That's a terrible idea," I said. "Maybe," he said. "But I can't just document this indefinitely. I need to know why. I need to know who's responsible." He went to Westbrook on a Tuesday morning in July. He brought files and photographs and his documentation of all the missing people. He walked into the lobby and asked to speak with the Human Resources Department. The security guard at the desk was Marcus. Later, when Marcus came to find me, he told me what happened. He'd watched Dr. Walsh scan into the building using a forged security pass. He'd watched Walsh walk past the security checkpoint and into the elevator. And then, according to Marcus, something strange occurred. "He was on the 23rd floor," Marcus told me. "I watched the access logs. He scanned a door on the 23rd floor. Cloud Infrastructure Division. And then the logs show him moving around that floor, entering different offices, accessing different doors." And then, Marcus paused, struggling with the memory. "And then all the access logs for that floor went blank. All the camera feeds went offline. I tried to contact security upstairs, but no one was answering. So I went up there myself, using the backup elevator that doesn't trigger the logging system." "What did you find?" I asked. "Nothing," Marcus said. "The floor was empty. Not like abandoned, empty like no one had ever been there. No Dr. Walsh. No signs of any disturbance. But his security pass is still in the system, and according to the logs, he never left the building. He's still there, Thomas. Somewhere in that building, on that floor, Dr. Walsh is still there. I didn't go back to Westbrook. I didn't try to find Dr. Walsh. I understood at that moment what the company's solution was for people who asked too many questions. It took another 3 months for me to fully understand what was happening. It started with the other day laborers who worked alongside me. I was doing demolition work on an old office building in the International District, breaking down walls and moving debris. There were 3 other guys working that day: Miguel, who'd been in the country illegally for 8 years, Derek, who'd run from an abusive home in rural Washington, and a guy named James who nobody knew much about. One morning, James didn't show up. No explanation. The foreman shrugged and hired someone else. A week later, Miguel vanished. He was there on Monday, and on Tuesday he simply wasn't. No one had a phone number for him. No one knew his last name. He'd been paid in cash. He'd been just as invisible as I was. Then Derek. I started paying attention. I started asking questions among the day labor community, the construction workers, the warehouse employees, the people who lived off the grid in Seattle. And I found a pattern. People were disappearing. Not dramatically. Not in ways that would trigger investigations or police reports. They were just vanishing from the underground community, the same way Dr. Walsh and the other employment contract ghosts had vanished from the official world. I started to realize that Westbrook and the other companies weren't just using official employment as a way to study people. They were using the entire infrastructure of the city as a hunting ground. They were looking for people who were already invisible, people who had no official records, people who lived outside the system. They were collecting us, studying us, and then deleting us. And the worst part was, I couldn't tell if this was actually happening, or if I was experiencing a breakdown in my own perception, similar to the one that had started when I realized I didn't exist. I went to the last address I had for Dr. Walsh's office. The building above the Vietnamese restaurant was gone. Not demolished, just gone as if it had never existed. The Vietnamese restaurant remained, but where the staircase leading up had been, there was now just a solid wall. I talked to the restaurant owner. She looked at me blankly when I asked about the office above her store. "There's no office," she said. "There's never been an office. The upper floor is storage." I checked the records for the address. There was no Dr. Richard Walsh listed as having any business license or property records there. Dr. Walsh had also been erased. At that moment, I understood the true horror of what was happening. Westbrook Technology wasn't just studying people and deleting them. They were reaching back through time and deleting the evidence of those people ever existing. They were erasing not just lives, but the record of those lives. Not just people, but the knowledge that those people had ever been real. Marcus had been one of the few people to truly acknowledge my existence. So when he came to find me in the homeless encampment in Ballard where I'd been living, I almost didn't recognize him. He looked exhausted, haunted. "I need to warn you," he said. "They know about you. They know you're still here. They know you're trying to survive in the city." "How do you know that?" I asked. "Because they asked me about you," Marcus said. "They came to my house. They knew where I lived. They asked me if I'd ever spoken to you, if I knew where you were staying, if I'd helped you in any way. And I lied. I told them I'd never seen you after you left the building that first morning." "Why would they care?" I asked. "I'm already erased. Why do they care if I'm living in a tent in Ballard?" "Because you're still conscious," Marcus said. "You're still aware of what happened. You're still a witness. And as long as you're alive and aware, you represent a failure in their system. You're proof that you can exist outside of their documentation. You're proof that human consciousness doesn't require official records to be real." "What are they going to do?" I asked. "I think," Marcus said quietly, "they're going to try to erase you completely. Not just from records, from existence itself, from memory, from consciousness, from reality." "That's not possible," I said. "Isn't it?" Marcus asked. "How do you know? How do you know that you're real right now, talking to me in this moment? How do you know that a week ago actually happened, instead of being a false memory implanted in your mind? How do you know that your entire life isn't a simulation that they can turn off at any moment?" I didn't have an answer to that. I'm writing this from a library computer in Seattle, knowing that it might be the last thing I ever write. Knowing that by the time anyone reads this, I might not exist anymore. The thing about being erased is that you never know when it's going to happen. You never know at what moment the process will complete. Will I wake up tomorrow and find that everyone has forgotten me? Will I look in the mirror and see nothing reflected back? Will I simply cease to exist mid-sentence, mid-thought, mid-consciousness? Or will it be slower than that? Will I fade gradually, becoming less and less real over time, until I'm little more than a ghost moving through a city that doesn't see me? I started seeing others like me. People who carry the hallmarks of the erased. We can recognize each other because we're the ones who move through the world slightly out of phase with everyone else. We're the ones who order coffee and watch the barista's expression go blank as they're writing our name. We're the ones who walk past security cameras and watch them glitch, pixelate, corrupt. We're the ones who speak to people and watch them forget what we said before we finish saying it. There are more of us than there should be. Dozens, maybe hundreds, scattered throughout Seattle. Some of us have been erased for years. Some of us are new. And we're all slowly fading. I tried to leave Seattle. I thought maybe if I could get out of the city, away from Westbrook's influence, I could stop the process. So I hitched rides out of the city, heading east toward the mountains. But the farther I got, the worse it became. The farther I got from Seattle, the less real I became. By the time I reached Snoqualmie, I could barely interact with people. When I tried to buy gas, the pump wouldn't accept my credit card, even though it was forged and untraceable. The clerk at the convenience store looked right through me. So I came back. I came back to Seattle, to the city where I was erased, because it's the only place where I'm still somewhat real. Marcus comes to see me sometimes. He's getting scared. He's starting to show signs, forgetting conversations we've had, losing track of time. I think just by being near me, by helping me, by acknowledging my existence, he's starting to be pulled into the same process. He's starting to be erased too. "I'm going to confront them," he said yesterday. "I'm going to walk into Westbrook and demand to know what they're doing." "That's a terrible idea," I said. "They'll just delete you like they deleted Dr. Walsh." "Maybe," Marcus said. "But this can't go on forever. Someone has to stand up. Someone has to make this real. Someone has to make people care." I told him not to go. But I think he's going to anyway. I think we all reach a point where we can't take the erasure anymore and we do something, anything to fight back, even if that fight leads to complete and total obliteration. The coffee I'm drinking as I write this tastes wrong. Or maybe I just can't taste it properly anymore. Maybe that's part of the erasure. Losing the ability to experience physical sensations, losing the connection to the material world, until you're nothing but consciousness floating in the void. I don't know how long I have left. I don't know if I'll still be real tomorrow or even later today. I don't know if anyone will ever read this or if this post, like everything else about me, will be deleted before anyone ever finds it. But I had to write it. I had to create some record of my existence, some proof that I was here, that I was real, that I mattered. If you're reading this, know that Thomas Allen existed. Know that I worked at Westbrook Technology Center for 6 months. Know that my badge worked and my desk was real and I was a person who had thoughts and feelings and consciousness. Know that I was here. Because if you know that, then I'm still real. As long as someone, somewhere, remembers that I existed, then I can't be completely erased. That's my only hope now. That's my only reality. The post disappeared from the library's computer system within 48 hours of being written. But before it disappeared, someone had copied it. Someone had saved it, documented it, preserved it. Marcus Chin, the security guard, walked into the FBI field office in Seattle on a Thursday morning and handed over the documentation. He had files, recordings, photographs, years' worth of evidence showing that Westbrook Technology Center had been using the process of systematic erasure on human subjects. The investigation that followed was the largest corporate malfeasance case in the Pacific Northwest in decades. Arrests were made. Search warrants were executed. Executive officers of Westbrook Technology were indicted on charges of human trafficking, illegal experimentation, and crimes against humanity. But here's the strange part. When the federal investigators went to retrieve the evidence from Thomas Allen's post, they found that the documentation had already been deleted. When they interviewed Marcus Chin in detail, they found that his memories of Thomas Allen were fragmented and inconsistent. He couldn't remember what Thomas looked like, couldn't remember specific conversations they'd had, could only remember a general sense of someone being erased. When they searched the personnel records of Westbrook Technology, they found no record of Thomas Allen ever being hired. And when they searched the missing persons reports in Washington State for the past 5 years, they found no file for a Thomas Allen who had disappeared. It was as if he had never existed at all. The Westbrook case went to trial. The company was convicted. The executives were sentenced to prison. But the question of what happened to Thomas Allen, and to the dozens of other people who had been caught in the process of systematic erasure, was never answered. Because the evidence was gone. The witnesses were gone. The documentation was gone. All that remained was Marcus Chen's testimony, fragmented and contradictory, describing a man who had been almost completely erased from existence, speaking about a process that, according to all available evidence, should have been impossible. And all that remains for us now is a question. What if it wasn't impossible at all? What if, somewhere in Seattle, even now, there are people who used to exist, who used to have names and jobs and lives, moving through the city like ghosts, invisible to everyone but each other? What if you walk past them every day and don't see them? What if they're trying to speak to you and you can't hear? What if the only way to make them real again is to acknowledge their existence, to remember their names, to write them down and preserve them and refuse to let them be completely erased? What if that's the only power we have left?